This is the Desert Shaman, Roger Thunder. For those of you who watch the Ukraine war and what's going on in Russia and that whole thing, which I know there's some on this channel that do, and this is also for those who might be new here, want to hear the intel. See, I always let stuff settle down before I jump right into the fray, because I hear a lot of people jumping into the fray about this latest incident with Prigozhin and Putin and the Wagner group. So I let things settle down and I let intuitive feelings come to me, and I put on my warrior hat or my military hat or my aviation hat or my strategist hat or whatever, and look at the whole big picture here. Okay. So this latest incident where Prigozhin supposedly, and not supposedly, he did head towards Moscow with 4,000, and he went into a city in Russia, Rostov, I believe is the name of the city, Rostov on the Don or something like that. He went in there. These are the mercenary group, the warriors at the front line, the Russian front line, loyalists, of course, all of them, fighting for Russia, fighting for Putin. Just finished a horrific battle at Bakhmut, which was probably one of the bloodiest battles in the history of the military conflicts, period, around the world. These boys are out there putting their butts on the line and fighting tooth and nail and seeing horrific things and killing a lot of people, okay? They're the frontline warriors, so they were blowing off some steam. And if you know anything about any kind of spec ops group, let's say Navy SEALs, I had a lot of association with them. If you know anything about people that actually go on covert missions behind the lines and actually, are slitting throats and bagging them up, so to speak. These kind of people are totally different than the top brass, okay? The top brass are always referred to as pencil-pushing geeks, basically. Pencil-pushing geeks. They don't know shit about fighting out in the front lines or putting your life on the line. Or they sit back in their armchairs and make decisions. Well, this similar thing can happen in Russia as well. There can be people at the top that are more like pencil-pushing geeks than really know what's going on the battlefield. So what we really had here are some people that are on the front lines, the Wagner group, some of the best fighters in the world, if not the best, getting a little frustrated, okay, and especially their leader, Prigozhin, who incidentally was once Putin's chef, just to put things into perspective. These people all know each other, have known each other for years. So Prigozhin was Putin's chef at one time, prepared all kinds of meals for him, and was just basically a good friend, okay? He somehow rose to being the head of the Wagner group because they needed a front man, basically. So these people all know each other, just like Lukashenko, the guy that settled this whole thing, supposedly the middleman or the peacemaker within the military structure in Russia, was also friends with Putin and has been friends with Prigozhin for 20 years or more. So this is really all one big happy family that had a little bit of a fucking argument here about how things should be done. That's basically what it amounts to. And this has been going on for a while. There's always, in any kind of supreme warrior group, There's always infighting, or maybe just letting off steam, or challenging authority. You find this in the Apache Wars. If you go back to the Apache Wars and you actually, sorry about the light going dim there, but that's okay. Something's going on with the lighting. If you go back to the Apache Wars, you can see that there was challenges even amongst bands of warriors as to who was going to be leading and what kind of tactics that they were going to employ. Hit and run tactics, or outright confrontation or whatever. Usually the Apaches used guerrilla war. They were the maximum guerrilla warfare fighters. They were par excellence. But anyway, I digress a little. So you got these same kind of guys here that are on the front lines that are real warriors, that kill them and let God sort them out, that kind of thing. Take no prisoners, type thing. They're seeing blood and guts every fucking day. Okay, so they blew off some steam because they didn't think that their side of the story was being fully appreciated. Let's put it that way. They didn't think that their side of the story, or their actual view of the battlefield, being on the battlefield, was being given enough attention. Is basically what it amounted to. And Prigozhin, no matter what you say about him, did go to the front lines frequently to be with put himself in danger. Wasn't one of these armchair guys, knew exactly what was going on, and ended up speaking for his organization, his warriors in his organization, speaking up for them. Now they went into this Rostov, I believe. I might have said Rosatov. It's Rostov on the Don. Town in Russia where the military headquarters was. They went in there, they went in there to make a statement. They just went in there to make a statement. Now, if you look at the people in the town, the people of Russia, basically are 100% behind the Wagner group. They idolize them. They got billboards, they got songs, they got all kinds of things about what's going on. They appreciate their warriors fighting for them, no matter who they are, and they really kind of idolize these guys. And I've seen video footage of the people in Rostov out in the streets like it was New Year's Day or Christmas or something. Everybody's beeping their horns. The Wagner group's there. They're talking to them. They're cheering them on, not against Putin. And this little uprising, this little disagreement never was against Putin. Never, ever. It was against lower realm pencil-pushing geeks that are in between the high command and the soldiers on the front line, that kind of thing. So, in order to call attention to their plight or their viewpoint or whatever, they threw a little party here. But the people in Rostov were laughing and shaking hands and cheering them on after this was settled, of course. And it was settled quickly. Kind of like a feud amongst friends, is the way you want to look at it. It was settled real fucking quick. Putin had to make a statement. He had to come out, a hardline statement. But then negotiations happened behind the scene with Lukashenko, the president of Belarus, and the head of the Wagner group, Prigozhin. And it was authorized by Putin. So this was kind of just a squabble. It wasn't. Let me emphasize something here. This was not a coup. This was not like trying to take over the government, trying to depose Putin. They never had a grievance with Putin, ever, and they said that outright. So this was just a lower level thing. And actually, I look at it as it's good for Russia in the long run and in the short run as well. Now, here's why. Here's why I say that. Because there's many in Russia, and actually there's many in the United States, I've even said this at times, who support that whole thing. There's many that most, probably, I'd say maybe 80% of the Russian people, I'm just guessing here, but a lot of the Russian people are very passionate about getting this shit over with. Going in, kicking ass, taking names, okay? Kick ass and take names. Zip up the body bags. Let's get this shit going. That's the way warriors who are on the front line think. We don't want to just be here at a standstill. We don't want to be at a standstill here. We want to move. We want to move on it. We don't want this slow, methodical approach, okay? So there's the two schools of thought that are colliding there. The methodical approach, which is more Putin's approach. The grinding away approach, okay? And the getting it over with real fucking quick. So there has to be a balance now that is... They have to strike a balance now in between these two things. Putin does. This is the way I see it. The Russian people basically don't want war going on forever. And if you look at some of the classic books on warfare, like Sun Tzu's Art of War, for instance, there's all kinds of information in there about deception and how a war should be fought and how long it should be fought and what tactics should be used. One of the main things in there is a prolonged conflict is not good for the state and could eventually end up making you lose the war because you have to draw on resources. And it just wears out. It wears the people out. So that's all this is about. This is about, let's put it in high gear here. Let's get this thing going. Let's kick ass, take names, and do what we got to do, okay? And the logic in this is that the longer it takes, the more things that can come up, like the destruction of the dam and the destruction of the pipeline, and now there's talk about attacking Zaporozhye nuclear power plant, and there's just all kinds of things that could arise, could come up, F-16s, whatever. And I've always been of the mind of go in and take them out. Take out whoever you got to take out, Zelensky, the command and control center, whatever you're going to do, that's what you got to do. You got to do it quick and you got to get it over with. But that, again, is just one school of thought in a strategic mindset, okay? There's also other schools of thought. But the bottom line is here that there are a good deal of people that want this to be over with. And who doesn't want war over with? You want it over with quick. You don't want to be out there all day long killing each other in the hundreds of thousands. It's futile. It's a futile thing. So that's what this was all about. It was some boys blowing off some steam because they weren't heard. They wanted their side heard. And again, this just proves to me that they're real warriors. I mean, do you see that shit in the United States going on? I mean, yeah, the Navy SEALs and the Delta Force sometimes complain. Actually, there was an incident in the past. Now that I think about it, there was an incident with the Navy SEALs where the same kind of thing happened on a level unknown to the general public. I mean, Marchenko, who was head of the SEAL Team 6, who I knew some of those guys, and actually worked out with them in the dojo. He was head of SEAL Team 6, and he was hired by the top brass to test the security at nuclear naval submarine bases And they said, now we want you to test, see if anybody can get in there. Well, they took it to the extreme. They said, yeah, you want a test? Okay, we'll give you a test. And they went in there and they actually took some of the commanders of the subfleet and everything else prisoner. I mean, they went in there as a force, as a red cell, as a test cell, and they did, they did some severe. They put the hurt on them. Let's put it that way. So, and Marchenko was reprimanded for that, and actually he lost a lot of status and all kinds of things because he had a group of SEALs that were rogue type SEALs. They were, they had beards, long hair. You couldn't tell them from the normal guy on the street. But again, I digress here. I digress. The point I'm trying to make, though, is that there has been uprisings of a sort against the pencil-pushing geeks in Washington from the military here. We need more of that, actually. So it's a healthy thing in a warrior-type environment to keep these juices flowing and to keep, to keep on top of it and to keep alert, so to speak, and keep the top brass alert as to what the fuck is going on in the front line. So what I think you're going to see now, again, is hopefully, I'm hoping that we see a little bit more of an increase in the approach, a more hardline approach into getting this war over with. But I still think it will be tempered with a cool head from Putin. So we'll see what happens here. We'll see what happens. The people in Russia look at these guys as heroes, okay, the Wagner group. Now here's another thing, too, I might add here, is that there was never any intention and there was never any turning against Putin by other members of the military or mayors of the towns or the people of Russia or the Duma or any other part of the state. There was no collusion, there was no factions arising out of nowhere, turning against Putin, wanting to take him out. None of that happened. None of that happened, and it wasn't even, there was no evidence of that at all, okay? This was entirely a small group of people, warriors. Now, did they, some people are going to speculate, did they do this on their own, or was the West involved? The West wasn't involved, in my opinion. And here's why. They say, okay, that some people in the congressional community were informed of this beforehand and some security. I don't believe that. I believe they jumped on it and said, yeah, we knew about this. Yeah, this is to make it look like this was some kind of coup or orchestrated from the outside. Of course, they want to take credit for everything. Then Biden comes out and says just the opposite and says, we didn't have any part of this and blah, 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 blah. They always send mixed messages. They always send, one side's one way and one side's the other. Why? To confuse you. To confuse you. And then when the truth comes out, they can always say, well, we said that, but they didn't. It was one faction that said that, okay? So this is just gamesmanship here. This is just bullshit as far as the Western narrative goes. Now, I must say I was just as surprised as anybody else about the situation that arose with Prigozhin and the little uprising there, because, you don't want an instability for too long of a time, because that's when mistakes are made and somebody pushes a nuclear button or something like that. So nobody likes big surprises out of nowhere. But Prigozhin has been mouthing off for months now, and I'm sure the a lot of us saw this coming, and so I'm sure the Russians had a tab on it. They're far from being stupid or thugs, as some commentators have called Putin, which, when they said that, lost all their credibility completely with me. I won't watch them again. And I get my intel from different sources, and some of these CIA agents, ex-CIA agents that come out on the shows and stuff, and I know which ones are kind of shady, and the ones that are more truthful, coming from the heart. And I know the colonels, okay, that come on and talk about this stuff. And I know which one of them has a track record. So I get my own intel from all, and I let things simmer down, and I come to a conclusion, Now, anything could happen in the future. I mean, this happened so damn fast, it made your head spin. But I think, as far as stability in Russia, this is something that just needed to be said and gotten out of the way, and now it's full force, full speed ahead. Damn the torpedoes, and let's blow the fuck out of them. So that's my take on it. You're welcome to just, look at anybody you want to look at as far as takes go. But there's a million of them. And the funny thing about it is everybody's jumping on the bandwagon in the first couple of hours after this, and they may have to eat crow later, because they said some things that actually I didn't believe, okay? And even people that I respect, I'm like, no, sorry, I don't know. That's a leap, okay? Stories about MI6 and the UK being involved and buying off Prigozhin, and there's collusion, and he's a traitor, and nah, not buying that. Not really buying that at all. There's no evidence of it. Not really. Only with the mouthing, talking heads on mainstream media and some of the brass or top people in government of the United States. But you can't believe a word that comes out of their fucking mouth. Not one fucking word, okay? It's all a deception. So that's where I'm going to leave it today. That's my take on it, and just an update on this Ukraine thing, and because it is, it's going to have a large effect on what happens with the world going forward from here. Let's put it that way. This is probably one of the biggest incidents in history of warfare or intrigue. Spy versus spy, war versus war. Nukes versus nukes. All that good shit. All right? I'm out of here.